Learning a new language, well, especially Japanese, with all its unique grammar, can sometimes feel like you're staring up at this huge mountain.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
see all these, fascinating things to learn, but it feels maybe a bit daunting.
Mm.
But if you get the right tools, the right guidance, those challenges, they turn into these really cool climbs full of aha moments.
That's a perfect way to think about it. And our goal isn't just to, like, point you down a path. It's more about showing how each little turn, each new concept actually gives you a totally fresh perspective,
Yeah.
turns the complex stuff into something that feels, well, intuitive, enjoyable even.
Bringing those shortcuts, yeah.
Exactly, those conceptual shortcuts.
And that is exactly what we're doing here today on The Deep Dive. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to tackle some really crucial Japanese grammar points from Genki I, Lesson 5. So our mission today is to really unpack Japanese adjectives. There's a bit to get through there and figure out how to talk about likes and dislikes, authentically.
Yeah, that's a big one for English speakers.
Totally. And then master those let's and shall we forms so you can actually suggest things. And finally, Japanese loves its precision, right? So we need to tackle the counter system.
Which can feel a bit bewildering at first.
It can, but these aren't just random grammar rules you memorize. They're really foundational. Think of them like, I don't know, essential new climbing gear. Every single one you get comfortable with, it just massively expands what you can say in Japanese.
Right. Describing things, expressing your feelings, suggesting stuff smoothly.
Exactly. All with more nuance, more confidence. It really opens things up.
Absolutely. So our aim is to give you that practical knowledge, that clear understanding, so you can confidently use these Lesson 5 concepts out there in your own Japanese journey. We want you speaking and understanding more easily, more naturally.
So yeah, get ready. It's going to be detailed, lots of examples. We really want this stuff to stick. Okay then, let's get into it. Let's unpack this. Right, our first major climb today, absolutely essential if you want to paint vivid pictures with your words, is the Japanese adjective system. Now, straight away, you need to know Japanese adjectives split into two main camps, I adjectives and na adjectives. And getting this difference, it's like knowing if you need a flathead or a Phillips head screwdriver. Crucial, because how you change them, how you use them with nouns, it's totally different. Two separate toolkits.
That's a spot-on analogy, actually. Knowing if an adjective is an I or a not type, that's step one. Always. Get that right from the start, and you'll save yourself so much confusion later on. Their conjugation patterns are completely separate worlds.
So let's start by really digging into I adjectives. I kind of like to think of them as self-sufficient descriptors.
Yeah.
Because they have their own is or to be meaning built right in.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And most of them, you probably noticed, end in that I sound. Like oishi for delicious or tanoshi for fun. And the really cool thing, the aha moment, is that they already mean is delicious or is fun. So if you just say oishi, you're saying it is delicious. It works as a complete thought.
Precisely. That built-in is, that predicate quality, that's the key. You don't need a separate verb like ada for just a basic statement in casual speech. You're basically saying delicious is.
Okay.
But if you want to be polite, in the present tense, you just add ade right onto the end. So it becomes sa oishi desu. It is delicious, but polite.
Ah, okay. So maybe you're eating at a friend's place. You might just go, ah.
Yeah, casually.
But if you're talking to their mom, you'd probably say, sure.
Exactly. Politeness dictates adding that.
And here is a super critical point. A really common beginner trap to avoid. You cannot add ada to I adjectives. Never, ever.
Big one.
And why not? Well, because I also means is. So saying is, it's like saying it is delicious. It's just redundant, grammatically wrong.
Right. It's like the I adjective is already doing the job of being something, so that extra is from are is totally unnecessary. They're like these little self-contained sentence units.
Okay, I think I get that. They're inherently predicate, as you said. They don't need da, just desu for politeness. That makes sense.
And understanding that, that's a real aha moment. It shows how Japanese grammar packs meaning into endings and structures.
Okay, so that's the basic positive form. Now, how do we make them negative? How do we say something is not delicious or not fun? What's the trick there?
It's actually surprisingly neat. You take your I adjective, you drop the final E, and you add kunai.
Yeah.
So if you have warui, which means bad,
Yeah.
it becomes warukunai, not bad. Or samui for cold turns into samukunai, not cold.
Simple swap then, like chiyowo samukunai desu ne. It's not cold today, is it?
Exactly. You got it. And for the polite version, you just add or to that negative off form. So, warukunai desu.
Feels pretty logical. Now, I have heard of defiant. Ku arimasen. Is that something we need to worry about much?
Good question. You're right about adding ushue is definitely the most common, most natural way to say it politely in everyday chat.
Okay.
Now, oshu arimasen is grammatically correct, and it's more formal, but honestly, you just don't hear it as much in regular conversation. For now, really focus on arshor. It's what you'll use 99% of the time.
Gotcha. Stick with our shore. Okay, what about the past? We've done is delicious, is not delicious. How do we say it was delicious?
Right, moving into the past tense. And again, Japanese shows this kind of elegant logic here. For the past tense, positive form, you again drop that final, but this time you add kwer, katta.
Okay, katta.
So omoshiroi, interesting, becomes lazar tamaritatta, was interesting. And tanoshi, fun, becomes tanoshi, idea was fun.
Ah, okay. So if I just watched a movie, my friend asks about it, I could say, Aiga wo omoshirokata. The movie was interesting.
Perfect example. Exactly right.
And for politeness in the past, positive, following the pattern, I'm guessing we just add onto that form. Like furchier omoshirokata desu.
Spot on. That's the standard polite past form.
But here's where I remember getting confused. I was told pretty firmly, you cannot use deshita with I adjectives.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? I mean, cares feels like the passive iterate, so why not here?
That is a fantastic question. And yeah, it trips up a lot of learners. It goes back to that idea we talked about, the sort of verb-like nature of I adjectives.
Okay.
They handle their own tense changes internally. That ending. That is their built-in past tense marker. Now, sure, that's the polite past tense of the copula, or and the copula is used mainly for nouns and adjectives, things that need an external is or was.
Ah, I see.
Since I adjectives already handle their own tense with adding us would be, well, grammatically clunky or redundant. It's like their internal engine already did the job of making it past tense.
Fascinating. Okay, so the adjective itself conjugates. Got it. So for the past negative, feels like we combine the rules. Start with a negative form, like omashiro konaka.
Mm-hmm.
Then drop the final from arsh and add my e. So, Anezia omashiro kunakatta was not interesting.
Precisely. You've got the pattern. That R part in RX just like an I adjective itself, so it takes the ending for its past tense.
And polite is just adding res. To say one, it unata no shiro kunakatta desu.
Exactly. So if your vacation wasn't much fun, you might say, "On mari tanoshi konakatta desu." It wasn't very fun.
And I guess the super formal "Bueno to arimasen deshita" exists, but
yeah, very rare in normal speech.
Yeah.
Stick with our...
Okay, now, here's where I adjectives throw a real curveball, right? There's that one super common, super irregular one you absolutely have to know. To, meaning good.
Ah, yes, classic exception.
If you just followed the rules we laid out, you might think the negative is, I don't know, ikunai, but that's wrong.
Completely wrong, yeah. This one's special because its forms actually come from an older original word, yoi.
Right, yoi.
So because it comes from jo, the negative form is akune, not good.
Ikunai.
The past positive is howat yokata was good.
Yokata. Hear that all the time.
Exactly. And the past negative is how yokokata was not good. This one is pure memorization, really. But L is so common, you hear constantly, they become second nature pretty quickly.
Like, kono rizotora no wa yokunai. This restaurant isn't good. Or, kino no pati wa yokata. Yesterday's party was good.
Perfect. It's fundamental. So yeah, small hurdle, but essential.
All right, let's switch tracks then. Let's move on to na adjectives. I always think of these as kind of like grammar chameleons. They're basically nouns, right?
yeah.
But they can dress up and act like adjectives if you add the right thing. What's your take?
That's a brilliant way to describe them. Adjectival nouns is the technical term, but chameleon really captures it. Their core is noun-like, which means unlike I adjectives, they need a helper verb, like de or desu, to actually state something.
Right, like Genki for energetic or healthy, or Kiri for pretty or clean.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say Genki and mean it is energetic. You need that extra bit
Exactly. Unlike I adjectives, they do not have that built-in is, so you can and must use or chur to make a statement. For present tense positive, it's a for casual speech. Oh, enki da, it is energetic.
Okay.
And for polite speech, like when someone asks, how are you? Oh, genki desu ka. The classic reply is, hi, genki desu. Yes, I'm well energetic.
Makes sense. So how about the negative?
For the negative, casual is janai. So genki janai means not energetic.
Okay.
For polite negative, you have two main options. Janai desu, which is very common,
Right.
or dewa arimasen, which is a bit more formal. You hear it more in writing or formal situations. So you could say, kono heya ya wa dewa arimasen. This room is not clean, maybe in a more formal context.
Kirei janai wa kirei de wa arimasen.
Got it.
And the past tense, does it follow the noun pattern too?
It does, exactly. Past tense positive uses for casual genki data was energetic.
Okay.
And deshita for polite manaka. So it mirrors noun conjugations very closely there.
Right. And past negative.
Past negative is janakata for casual genki janakata was not energetic.
Okay.
And for polite, again, two options. For casual jechu, which is common, or the more formal, dewa arimasen deshita. So, restoran o Shizuka janakata desu. That restaurant wasn't quiet. That works perfectly.
Remembering they conjugate like nouns is a really good tip. Okay, but here's the tricky bit, right? The exceptions. There's a small group of na adjectives that actually end in R, but they still follow all these na adjective rules. They're like imposters.
Yeah, they try to fool you. But it's a small, manageable list at the beginner level. The key ones are kirei, pretty clean, arshai, kirai, hate dislike, and yume, famous.
Kire, kira yume. Okay, so how does that sneaky I ending affect how we use them? Give us an example.
Absolutely. This is where that chameleon idea really shines. Even though they end in I, they behave like na adjectives through and through. So if you want to say a pretty place, you must say, kirei na basho.
The na is still needed.
Exactly. You absolutely cannot say iibai basho. That would be wrong. Same for a famous person. It has to be yume na hito. They need that when modifying nouns, and they use a for statements, just like all the others. Small group, but super important to spot them.
Okay, that clarifies those exceptions. Now, we've talked about how they conjugate, but let's nail down how they actually modify nouns. The overall rule is simple. They go before the noun, right?
That's the general rule for both types, yes. Before the noun.
And for I adjectives, it's super easy. Just stick it in front. Like churro, aiga, for an interesting movie, or wakuishikan for a scary time. No extra bits needed.
Exactly. Direct placement. Simple. Clean. Shows that self-contained nature again.
But for na adjectives, here comes that crucial particle again. That's the costume or the bridge we mentioned.
Precisely. You must insert between the na adjective and the noun it's describing. So it becomes oinekinaito, an energetic person, or kirei nakishiki, pretty scenery.
And it really does feel like a bridge. It connects that noun-like word, genki, to its descriptive job for the next noun, hito.
Exactly. It's the grammatical glue. Without it, like if you just said upuku genki hito, it sounds like energy person. Doesn't work. That clarifies the relationship. Genki is describing hito, small particle, massive job.
Got it. Okay, one last thing on adjectives.
Apply.
Adding intensity. Sometimes delicious just isn't enough, right? You need very delicious. How do we amp things up?
Good point. Japanese has some great adverbs for this. Very straightforward. Common ones are totemo and okuku. Both basically mean very.
Totemo sugoku.
To just place them right before the adjective. So adonese is very delicious, is very pretty. Like kono kohi wa totemo oishii desu. This coffee is very delicious.
Or ano hayu wa sugoku yume desu. That actor is very famous.
Exactly. Easy way to add emphasis.
And then there's anori. That one's special, isn't it? Only used with negatives.
That's the key thing to remember about art. It only pairs with negative forms. It means not much or hardly. So you'd say amare uishikunai for not very delicious.
Okay.
Or maybe a book wasn't that interesting. Kono hon wa amari omoshiroku nakatta desu? this book wasn't very interesting. You'd never say araranrishi. It just doesn't work grammatically. It always signals that partial or slight negation.
Okay, that's clear. Amari plus negative. Got it.
Mm.
Right, moving on. Let's tackle something that really trips up English speakers, myself included back in the day, expressing likes and dislikes with tricky and kirai.
Yes, the classic adjective versus verb confusion.
Exactly. I totally tried using them like verbs at first. What's the main confusion here, and why is it such a big deal?
The absolute core issue is that in Japanese, suki-like and kirai, dislike, hate, are not adjectives. They are not verbs.
Right.
And this matters hugely because it changes the particle you use. Since they're adjectives describing a state of liking or disliking, the object of that feeling, the thing you like or dislike, is marked with the particle ga, not phone.
Okay, so that's why. In English, I like pizza. Pizza is the direct object, gets whoa. But in Japanese, it's more like pizza is likable to me. So pizza needs ga.
You've nailed it. It's a different way of framing the sentence. So you say, pizza ga suki desu, not suto.
So an example would be, Robert-san wa nihongo no kurasu ga suki desu. Robert likes Japanese class. The class is the thing liked, so it gets ga.
Exactly. And the person doing the liking is often marked with wa as the topic 3. Watashi wa pizza ga suki desu. As for me, I like pizza.
And you mentioned you can sometimes drop the wa topic if it's obvious, like just anata ga suki, meaning I like you.
Yes, very common, especially in direct address like that. The ga still marks the object of the liking.
Okay, the ga particle is key. What about stronger feelings, like love or hate?
Simple fix. You add the prefix dai, which means great or big. So hyu becomes beisuki, which means to love or like very much.
Desuki.
And becomes se, daihirai, meaning to hate strongly.
Daiti.
So you could say, Haji watashi wa biru ga daihirai desu. I hate beer. Or kanojo wa neko ga daisuki desu. She loves cats. Just amps up the emotion.
Now, you mentioned politeness earlier. Is there a subtlety with expressing dislike? Like, is saying, okay.
This is a really important cultural point. Generally, in Japanese, it's considered more polite and much more common to say, suki janai desu, I don't like it, rather than the very direct, shurai desu.
Ah, okay. Why is that?
It ties into that preference for indirectness and maintaining harmony. Emser can sound quite blunt, quite strong, even a bit aggressive depending on the context and who you're talking to. Saying softens it significantly. You're expressing a lack of liking rather than an active dislike or hatred. It's much gentler. So if someone offers you food you don't care for, wa sorwa amaru suki janai desu, I don't like that very much, is way more polite than sorwa kirai desu, I hate that. Shows consideration.
That's incredibly useful for sounding more natural and, well, polite. So avoid kirai unless you really mean it strongly, and even then, maybe pause. Use suki janai desu more often.
That's generally good advice, yes.
But what if you're just totally indifferent? Neither like nor dislike.
There's a great phrase for that. Suki demo kirei demo nei desu. I neither like nor dislike it.
Okay, that's useful. Like for, I don't know, a certain type of music. Pop music. Suki demo kirai demo nai desu.
Perfect, exactly. It expresses that neutrality really clearly.
And just to circle back, because suki and tia are not adjectives, if they modify a noun, they still need that and, right?
Absolutely, full circle. So, fortune hito is a person I like, and yen kirai na basha is a place I dislike. They follow the adjective rules all the way.
Got it. Okay, let's switch gears again to some really useful verb forms now, the ones that let you suggest doing things together. The volitional form, specifically sisho sero maishu, and your let's do it and shall we forms.
Essential for interaction. Mashu is your standard polite way to say let's. You're either stating your own intention politely or, more often, inviting someone else to join in.
And the great thing is the formation is super simple, consistent across all verb types. You just take the verb's are form, chaha thorer, and stick on are.
That's it.
So ikimasu, to go, becomes shesho, let's go. Sabemasu, to eat, becomes sejobas, sajanshu, let's eat. Easy peasy.
Yep. Very straightforward. You might hear a teacher say, Mushu sa hajimemashu. Okay, let's begin.
And we should probably just quickly mention the casual version exists like aik for hun or aik for kare. But is our polite focus for now.
Right. We'll cover the plain form later, is for polite suggestions and intentions.
Okay, so what happens when you add ancha to make an aicha?
Adding a turns it into a question. Shall we? Or why don't we? You're making a suggestion and looking for agreement.
Okay, but here's where things get really interesting.
Yes.
And honestly, this is a massive point of confusion. Both oshuko, masenka, and mashko often get translated as shall we or won't you.
Very common confusion.
So what is the actual practical difference? When do you use which one in a real conversation? Because just using them interchangeably can sound a bit off sometimes.
This is absolutely vital for natural Japanese, and you're right, the translation overlap causes problems. The core difference is the assumption about the other person's willingness.
Okay, how so?
Okay, think of masenka. This is your initial invitation. It literally means, won't you? You use this when you are genuinely asking if the other person wants to do something without assuming they do. It's an open proposal.
So first time asking, use masenka.
Generally, yes. You see a colleague around lunchtime. Bachi, ishon ni ohiro gohan watabemasen ka? Won't you eat lunch together? You're genuinely checking their interest.
Okay, so what about eiching masenka?
Eso implies there's already some kind of shared understanding or presumed agreement. It's used more to confirm a plan or suggest a specific detail after the other person has basically already agreed to the general idea.
So it's not usually the first invitation.
Exactly. Using it as a cold first-time invitation can sound a bit presumptuous, actually. Think of it more like, shall we then? Or how about we, once you know they're on board?
That makes a huge difference. So masenka proposes, masuka confirms or refines. Can you walk us through a quick conversation example?
Sure. Let's say you want to ask a friend to a movie. You'd start with, Konshumatsu, ega wo mini ikimasen ka? Won't you go see a movie this weekend? Initial proposal.
Okay.
Your friend says, Ha, ii desu ne, that sounds good. Agreement.
Right.
Now you can follow up with, Yubi ikimashou ka? Then shall we go on Saturday afternoon? Confirming details. You use mashuka here because they've already agreed to the movie idea itself.
That clicks perfectly. Mashuka is like asking for the final nod on the specifics once the main plan is set. And it explains why the answer to Mashuka is so often Ibata. Soshimashu. Let's do that. It's because it is a confirmation.
Exactly. It's not really presenting a brand new idea at that point. Nailing this distinction really boosts how natural you sound.
Definitely a key insight. Okay, let's shift to another big area. Counting things in Japanese. This is where Japanese precision really shines, maybe sometimes overwhelmingly so.
Yeah, it can feel that way.
Unlike English, where it's just one apple, one car, one book, Japanese uses specific counter words based on what you're counting. Every category gets its own little unit.
It reflects a really deep categorization in the language, but the basic structure is consistent. It's always numeral plus counter, like sunmai, for 3 flat things.
Now, before we dive into specific counters like mai, there's that set of generic counters for just things. They're absolute lifesavers, right?
Oh, absolutely essential, especially early on. Hitotsu, mitsu, fatsu con futoger umutsu, asu con tutsu, asu, yatsu, awin, aramutsu, 1 through 10.
When we pull these out.
They're incredibly useful when you don't know the specific counter for something, or if the item is a bit abstract, or just for small quantities when hyper-precision isn't needed. Super versatile. If you're in a shop, just point and say, wait, just kudasai. Please give me one of those things.
Or asking a kid how many candies they want. Atai kutsu hoshi.
Exactly. And they might yell back, R, mitsu, 3. They're your general purpose go-to counters up to 10.
Okay. But for this lesson, the main specific counter we need to know is mai. So what exactly gets counted with mai? Give us the rundown.
Right. Fmai is super common. It's for thin, flat objects. And the category is actually quite broad. Think about sheets of paper hitway, like repoto ga gumai arimasu. There are 5 sheets of report paper. Stamps. Hitebo-san makemashita. I bought 3 stamps. T-shirts. Surprisingly, ishatsu ga arimasu. There are 2 T-shirts.
T-shirts, really?
Yeah, because they fold flat. Also postcards, shakagaki, photographs, tickets, ikipu, credit cards, CDs. Even things like plates, Sarah, can sometimes use mai, though there are other counters too.
Wow, okay, that's broader than I thought. Paper, stamps, photos, cards, CDs, tickets, even T-shirts, and sometimes plates. Got it. And placement, usually after the item or number.
Yep, typically after the item being counted or right after the numeral. And to ask how many, you use nanmai.
Nanmai, not nenimai.
Right, that sound change happens a lot with numbers and counters. Nani often becomes nan. So nanmai.
Okay, and you mentioned a little exception. Postcards use mai, but letters.
Just as a little peek into the complexity letters, the gami usually use a different counter. Oh, two. Like one letter. It just shows how specific things can get.
It really does feel like learning a whole separate vocabulary just for counting. And mai is just one. To show the depth, we could mention others briefly, like for people.
Right, for people it's sinin, but the first two are irregular. Hitori for one person, futari for two people. Then it becomes regular. Sanin, yonin, no, the yo, not yon, etc.
And small animals, cats, dogs.
That's squeaky, but it changes sound. Piki ibi, quilpudiki piki, vaikiki. Those piki hiki biki changes depend on the number.
Fun times. And things like degrees or occurrences.
You've got kis, do for degrees, like 3-2 sanshu do, and also for times or occurrences. And case is also very common for times or occurrences, like muikai, one more time. Even chopsticks have a for pairs.
It can feel seriously overwhelming, can't it? I remember thinking I'd never learn all these counters.
Totally understandable. But here's the thing. Even native Japanese speakers might not know all of them. There are literally hundreds for obscure things.
That is reassuring.
It really is a gradual process.
Right.
Don't feel you need to memorize hundreds right now. Focus on the common ones like the essay, the generic arere, and the people counters. You'll pick up others as you encounter them naturally. Start common, build slowly.
Excellent advice. Don't try to swallow the whole dictionary at once. Okay, so we've done adjectives, preferences, suggestions, counters. Let's round things out by looking at the new verbs and some key adverbs from Lesson 5. Getting the particles and nuances right is crucial here.
Absolutely. First up, oyogu, to swim. Simple one. The place where you swim takes the particle, wider. Place of action.
So, omi de oyogu, swim in the sea. Puro de oyogita, want to swim in the pool.
Got it.
Next is kiku. This one's tricky, multiple meanings. You know it as to listen or to hear, like ongaku kiku. But Lesson 5 introduces the meaning to ask.
Ah, okay. How does that work?
When you ask a person something, that person is marked with ni. So opi uchiwai ni kiku means to ask the teacher.
Ni marks the person asked. Okay, like tomodachi ni jikan wo kikimashita. I asked my friend the time.
Perfect. And just as a side note, there's another kanji aro, also read kiku, which specifically means to listen carefully, like to a lecture or music attentively. Same sound, different nuance.
Good to know. Okay, next verb. Noru, to ride or board. Which particle here?
Like kiku, to ask, also takes ani for the thing you get onto. So basu ni noru means to ride the bus or get on the bus.
Densha ni no to ride the train. Makes sense. You're getting onto it.
Now, an interesting one, yaru, meaning to do, but it's more informal than art, suru.
Right. Yaru versus suru. What's the difference, really?
It's subtle, often feels more casual, sometimes implies more physical action or completing a task, like shukudai wo yaro, do homework. It's much broader, used for general actions, abstract concepts like benku suru, study, you wouldn't say, finer, or when states change.
Okay.
Honestly, for beginners. Using rin is almost always safe and correct. Has specific contexts where it feels more natural, but aro is the reliable default. Don't stress too much about warrior right now.
Good advice. Stick with art mostly.
Okay, last verb. Dikakaru, to go out. How's this different from just RU? Another subtle nuance, RU is just general movement going from A to B, gaku ni, go to school. Dekakaru, however, implies going out from your current location, usually for some purpose or activity.
So it's not just moving, it's like stepping out.
Exactly. Like machi ni dekakeru, go out to town. Or kaimono ni dekakeru, go out shopping. It implies leaving your home or current base to do something. Takes a or for destination.
Iku is movement. Dekakeru is going out to do something. Got it.
Okay, finally, some essential adverbs and expressions to make conversations flow better, like conversational glue. First,
一緒に means together. Absolutely essential for those invitations we talked about using 아리츠로 or
一緒に勉強しましょう. Let's study together highlights the shared aspect.
and sugoku. We mentioned it earlier.
Yep, just another common way to say very, like air, maybe slightly more informal. You'll hear oi, sugoku omashiroi, very interesting, all the time.
Okay, and ushiu daijoubu. That seems to pop up everywhere. It's a super versatile phrase. Means, all right, okay. Use it to check on someone. Daijoubu desu ka? Are you okay? Use it to reassure someone. Daijoubu desu? Yes, I'm fine. You can even use it to politely decline something, like if offered more tea. Oh, tea. Daijoubu desu? I'm okay. No, thank you. A real conversational gem.
Definitely useful. What about derus?
Means what kind of. Perfect for asking about preferences or types. Denongaku ga suki desu ka? What kind of music do you like? Or deyosusa donna hito desu ka? What kind of person are they? Really useful question word.
And finally, those two crucial response phrases, su desu ne and su desu she. They sound similar but are used differently, right?
Very differently, yes. Mastering these is key for smooth back and forth. Villadesu is for agreement or acknowledgement, often with a slight pause or thoughtfulness. It's like, that's right, or I see, or yeah, you've got a point.
So if someone says, "It's hot today, isn't it?" "Shu ne. Atsui desu ne." You'd reply, "Su desu ne."
Exactly, you're agreeing. Now, sudesuka is used when you receive new information. It means, is that so? Or, oh, really? It shows you're listening and absorbing what they said.
So if someone says, "I'm a student, watashi wa gakusei desu," you might respond, "Mina su desu ka?"
Precisely. It's a polite acknowledgement of information. They seem simple, but using them correctly makes a huge difference in sounding engaged.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. And just like that, we've actually covered a massive amount of ground from Genki I, Lesson 5. We really dug into I adjectives and na adjectives, their conjugations, those tricky exceptions.
Hopefully the differences are clearer now.
And getting that den, and the larn den adjectives, needing that particle is a huge takeaway.
Definitely. And understanding the subtle dance between for intention, for confirming, and for that initial invitation.
Yeah, that distinction is gold. Plus, getting a handle on Japanese counters, starting with sum and the general ones, knowing it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. It's a big system. Take it step by step.
Mastering these bits and pieces really is crucial. You've now got the basics for nouns, verbs, and adjectives. That lets you build a huge range of sentences, express yourself much more fully.
It's a massive step up. Describing things, saying what you like, suggesting activities, it opens up real conversation. It's not just rules, it's about connection.
Totally. So as you keep going with your Japanese studies, here's something to think about. How does understanding these kinds of nuances, like the politeness behind saying sunko instead of ju, or knowing when to use this in ji versus you, how does that change how you connect? It's not just about getting the grammar right, is it? It's about understanding the culture embedded within the language.
That's a great point. It's about more than just words. It's about empathy, understanding, and really bridging that gap between cultures. Makes the whole journey much richer.